Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brad from the band The National Pool, and welcome to DIY Album Covers, episode number 7. Now, I got a really cool one for you guys today. A couple days ago, I made an album cover for a side project that I've been working on. It's like a chiptune 8-bit, fake bit, whatever you might want to call it. For all intents and purposes, it's chiptune. This is an alias that I go by, Chip Vengeance, which is just you got to call it something. So it's a horror-themed chiptune single. So I'm going to jump right into the screen grabs and just go through everything I'm doing. This is going to be like a really quick thing, but you can just kind of see my thought process as to how I make these covers. There's going to be a lot of apps in here that you may already know about, but there's going to be a lot of apps that I have not yet covered. So I hope you enjoy. Check this out. What we're working on right now is a chiptune album cover with a horror theme. So a couple of things we're going to keep in mind are that chiptune, it typically has an 8-bit aesthetic. I ended up not going too deeply into that on this album cover and playing more heavily into the horror theme. So one of the first things I did was I remembered that Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain because they missed their copyright registration or something. So here we go right here. Kelsey Grammer was on there for some reason. So Night of the Living Dead, boom, right here. I thought this was a pretty cool one. So going into here, I can't save that. So I'm literally showing you my entire process. For some reason I couldn't save that. So I go here. And then that is one that I can save. So that image looked a little bit too pristine. So I went into an app that I don't use often called Pixelish. And all I did was just, not that. Yeah, there you go. So that's all I did. I just pixeled it a tiny bit. And I don't use this app too much. It's a little bit kind of over the top, but there you go. So now that is saved. And the second app I used was Mextures, which we covered in episode number 6. And I did this because the image is black and white. And I think as we start really glitching this out and doing some more stuff, I want it to have a little bit of color to it. And I also don't know yet which area of this I'm going to use, so I'm just going to use this uncropped. So this is going to affect the entire thing. So I go into guest formulas like we showed you, and just start kind of clicking around. Nothing's really popping yet, because this is, it's in black and white, it's kind of tough. And I do like Manchester Rogue, that's kind of cool, but, this one, Detroit Steam, I didn't even mess with it at all. Just click Save. That looks pretty cool. So then we go into an app called Glitché and then choose our image here. I ended up deciding that there's a lot going on. There's these people here on the right, and I figured that having an image of a single person would read better on a small format. Of course, we're getting a little bit of the arm and there's someone back there, but once we really start glitching this out, all that stuff's not going to matter. So I went into scan and I started playing around with this, and what I did here was I just kind of hit scan on the bottom part there. Nothing too heavy, and I actually think that these pixels came out a little bit heavier than my original version. But we're just going to hit save there, and this is the thing with Glitché. I don't know if there's a different way to use this, but that's how I use it. Just kind of saving something, reloading it into the app. And then I start kind of going into all these different things, trying, maybe some burn, or, nothing's quite working. So what I ended up doing was just hit the data mosh, and I like that kind of, but the data bend goes down, and just kind of hit that, boom. That's all we need, just for a second. And again, this is not completely like what it turned out in the final version, but that's more or less what I did. So I hit save again, and we can close out Mextures and Glitché. And then I went into a new app that I just started using called VinylizeMe. And it's a little cheesy, but, it basically looks like old album covers, and I figured why not. So because this song kind of has a horror theme to it, I ended up calling the record label Horror Chip. It's just one of those things where it throws a record label into it. And which one did I ultimately go with? This is the one I went with. So from here we hit finish. And we're going to go ahead and load the last photo in. And we can resize this. Let's try to get as much of this in here as we can. tilting a little bit. There we go. All right, so that's good enough. And so the name of this song is called The Greatest... Oh, let's go to all caps. You got to keep hitting this. The Greatest Grave Filler. And this is like a concept thing. I don't even want to explain as to why it is that. But it's like a video game reference. So we're going to put the song title there. And so right here, with 3 artists there, that really fills out the space. But with just one artist, I found that the space didn't fill out too well. So what I ended up doing was putting a space between each letter, 2 spaces between the first and last name. And then I hit done, and it still didn't really seem all that filled out to me. So I just added a few more spaces here. I think we have 4 spaces there. So that's pretty good. We'll go ahead and hit finished. And then we get into the headers here. So the predominant color scheme here is black. And so I figured at the top where it says Stereorama, it's not really meshing too well. So I went with this one mainly just because it's black. It's a different shade of black, but it works. And for the wear and tear on this app here, basically everything looks like old album covers. So I wanted something that gets across the aesthetic, but that's not too heavy because I do like to run everything through Mextures at the very end. Let's go with this one. So it shows some wear and tear. Press cover, save. And then we're going to open up Mextures one more time. And so this is just going to be our final step, just to really add some more darkness to it. So it's already a square. We can hit uncropped. Go back into guest formulas, all guest formulas. And I scrolled around, and I think that Manchester Morgue, this was the best one. It just kind of, it didn't add too much to the overall image, but it did kind of give that little bit of sheen, a little bit of a blue tint to it, because we've already got all that grit and grain from that vinyl look. So hit save. And we are done. Now, granted, this took me only a few minutes. The actual process, because I was kind of, being creative and trying out different things, it took me about an hour and a half, maybe, possibly 2 hours. Actually, I'll show you guys what I really ended up with, because that was like the super quick version. So outside of this tutorial, this is the real final version of the album cover that I ended up with. And this single will be coming out into iTunes within the next couple weeks or so. So that was how I made that album cover. I hope y'all enjoyed that. This has been episode 7 of DIY album covers. Stay tuned. There's so many more apps to cover. There's so many more that I use, and then also little tricks that I've kind of came across within each of those apps. So there's a lot to cover. Hit me up in the comments here. Let me know if you have any questions about anything or any apps that you want me to check out or any questions, and I'd be more than happy to help. Hit subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and we will see you next time on episode 7.